Welcome to another episode of The Pursuit of Being a Stand-Up Leader. I'm Jared Whitman. I'm here with John Russell.
Good day.
Business Source. And we are breaking down John's book, Be a Stand-Up Leader, The ABCs of Getting the Job Done Right. Chapter by chapter. Each chapter is one episode. We have 56
This is a marathon.
left.
It's a marathon. I told you when we started this is going to take a while to get through the book.
No, it's been a while. Yeah, definitely. But we are running through it. I'm pretty excited. And the conversations have been fantastic for me. I think there's been a lot of knowledge and golden nuggets that I've certainly picked up. And I'm sure our viewers have also picked them up. But today's topic is leadership.
Before we jump into it, I want to just mention that this began as a pseudo experiment.
Yeah.
To determine what happens when you create a podcast with reasonable content.
Mm-hmm.
And how does the digital world respond to a series of videos that are being uploaded on a consistent and regular basis to build an audience?
Content strategy. And what I love about where you're going is seeing your channel grow in this experiment.
I know. It's crazy.
It's just very wild. So wild.
And the shorts
Yeah.
drive viewership.
I think shorts is a great content strategy, and you have a chapter in here on video, and we'll talk a little bit more about that and what I've seen.
I'd never heard about shorts before.
With across all my brands that I work with. But yeah, the shorts are what drive the views and eventually drive subscriber base. And that, the more subscribers you have, the more opportunities you have to create conversions.
And you're just creating an audience so you can bring ideas to or new concepts.
Value.
I think this is exciting because we're seeing it unfold right before our eyes.
Yeah.
We've only launched a few, but we've got a number of episodes in the library.
Yeah.
We're batch recording.
Yes.
And so it's kind of neat to see how video plays into the social media channels and how you build an audience. And that's why I wanted to just point out one of the reasons why we're doing this is to watch the audience grow. So feel free to subscribe because we're only about halfway through and we got a lot more content to go. We have a lot more shorts to go. And as we get through this, who knows where it's going from here, but we're having fun. So you pointed out a minute ago that today's first chapter is on leadership.
Yes.
What's your experience been with leadership?
Personally?
Yeah, personally.
I love being a leader. From that standpoint, I love the opportunity to coach and mentor people, to kind of help support them, give them the tools that they need to succeed in their job.
Right.
Which means that I'm going to succeed in my job.
Right.
And I just think there's so much value in there to put your good step forward and be a good leader. Now, that's how I would like to be led. And usually, I'm not led that way. So,
are leaders born or are they trained?
I think they can be trained.
I do too.
Yeah. It's just making sure you're doing the right things, being a stand-up leader.
You have to have the right personality characteristics.
Yeah.
So not everybody can be a leader.
That's true.
Some leaders are better than others, obviously.
Yeah.
I wrote in the book, this is on page 121, quality leadership instills positive motivation to do the right thing without being told. A lot of employees and a lot of people in general need that little bit of direction.
Yeah.
So that they know what to do next and they know they're doing the right thing next. It builds confidence.
Yep.
So a great leader will be able to help direct people. But before we get into that, I wanted to point out that leadership is a little different than management.
Totally different.
Totally different.
Well, okay, yes. I think leaders are there showing people how it's done.
Right.
right? And then you give your people the opportunity to fail and learn and grow and become better. Managers are there to tell people how it's done.
And to create the systems and processes
Yeah.
and the environment where
Yeah.
people work.
Yeah. I think when you look at two different people running a company, they're like, not the owners, but people sub-level down,
Right.
right?
Mid-managers.
Mid-managers. Yeah. You could have a manager who is an okay person, I would say.
Right.
Or you could have a leader in that position, which is a really great person.
Right.
And then that really affects everyone below them.
Right.
So I think you have it in here. Leaders have the leaders can impact the people below them.
Right.
And I think like good leaders can impact positively the people below them. Managers that aren't great,
right,
can also impact the people below them.
Right.
So it's very.
Yeah, leadership is a different kind of a skill. One of the things that I've found interesting that I wrote about in the book was the challenge that leaders have in recruitment.
Yeah.
And retention of employees. Because I think, and even today, it came up at one of my clients today. We're trying to recruit somebody.
Yeah.
There is nobody available to fill the position.
Okay.
In this particular position, there's probably 25 to 50 job openings in this market for that job.
Okay.
And there's a pay scale range that's acceptable.
Yep.
To managers and to leaders. And some companies don't want to pay above the average.
Right.
To attract talent.
Yeah.
And then you get no candidates.
Yep.
And then you're shorthanded. And then you're losing money.
Yep.
And it's a real conundrum when it comes down to it's the leader's responsibility to develop a recruitment program that's ongoing.
Yep.
That's all I'm going to say about that. But
yeah.
It's another leadership thing.
Yep.
That requires a special skill that not everybody's up for. The other thing I noted in the book was that oftentimes leadership is required to build alignment across all the people inside the company.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Like from the person that answers the phone.
Yeah. All the way. It really starts at the top.
Right.
Like you have to have a good leader at the top to help impact and set your people up for success.
Right.
You set the people below you up for success. They and give them the right processes and procedures on how to do things.
Right.
And then that follows through. Then now you're making sure that they're setting their people up for success.
Right.
And what we've talked about employees in the past, like when your people are happy doing the job that they're doing, when they feel like they have when they're bought into the
making
company,
making
a difference, have a mission, part of the mission, part of the growth.
Yeah, they're participating
more than just going to work.
Yeah, right.
They're actually there to help build the business.
Yeah.
And that is going to give you a robust business success.
So if the leader is committed to the employee and shows signals and backs it up with rewards and understanding and empathy and consideration, then it's easier for the employee to reciprocate and to get behind the leader and commit to the mission that the leader sets for the group.
Yeah.
And so you get all these people pulling in the same direction, become pretty powerful.
Yep. What's gonna help the boat move faster?
Right.
So if one person is saying one thing and the other person's saying the other thing, so they're rowing in different manners, that your boat's not gonna go anywhere.
Yeah.
So you have to get your team, you have to get the boats, you have to get every rower on the boats going in the same direction, going at the same speed, going at the same frequency, and you have the leader in the front of the boat that's kind of calling out what the business is doing. If you are saying one thing to the first person and yelling at yelling someone in the back
Pretty
to
hard.
do something else, well, now your boat's not moving forward and you're not going to win the race.
Right. Yeah, I was very fortunate because my dad was a great leader. He's in the Hall of Fame for the Wisconsin Broadcasters Association. I'll never be what he was because he was so far up. He was revered.
Yeah.
And his secret was really simple. His great leadership style was all about hiring the best people. The best people.
Yeah.
He would go after the most talented individuals. He would pay them what they wanted. He would share the vision and the direction and impart it on the others, the mid-level managers and the upper-level managers, so they understood what the mission was. And then he would go away and let them do their job.
Yeah.
And then what he would do is monitor their progress from his office.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they did something really well, he would reward them.
Yeah.
And when they did something that was outside of that vision, outside of that mission, he would gently bring them back up onto the tracks and say, remember where we started, remember where we're going. You were doing this great, but right now you're doing this here, not so much.
Yeah.
Let's leave that particular part of what you're doing behind and let's get back to the A game.
Yeah.
And then they respected him because he didn't beat them up.
Right.
So my favorite saying about leadership is a negative.
Okay.
And I experienced this firsthand, so it never left my mind. Here's the phrase. The beatings will stop when the morale improves. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
We had a manager that actually said that. And I don't know if he was joking.
Okay.
Because he would tear people apart.
Yeah.
And then he'd come in smiling 5 minutes later and wondered why you weren't his best friend.
Interesting.
So the morale never improved.
Yeah.
Everybody left.
Yeah.
The whole company disbanded. And this guy was left with nothing.
Right.
And so I don't really subscribe to that mentality. I prefer the soft side approach. And I didn't always have that.
Yeah.
Because I'm a little bit passionate about what I do.
Yep.
I run a little hotter than a lot of people. But the soft side, when you have compassion, empathy, consideration, and understanding for the employees and for the people that you're working with, and you care about them like family, and you understand who they are, help them achieve their goals as people, and they'll help you achieve your goals as a leader.
Yeah, 100%.
It's the soft side.
Yeah.
You know, I think somebody said the other day, you can attract bees with honey a lot more than you can attract them with something that isn't so sweet.
Right.
You know?
I think that's super important, especially like now. And I'm sure there's been the pendulum swings both ways, and eventually the pendulum will swing back the other way.
Right.
But with the way the job market is right now, you want to hold on to your employees that you've sunk money into.
Yeah.
You sunk the time into.
Right.
And that know your business. And if you can have the candor to approach them and have that hard conversation with them, if they've fallen off the track, and be like, hey, this is what you're doing well. This is not well at all. We need to get you back on the track because we want to see you succeed. We want you to
need you to be a winner.
Continue to grow. Yeah, we need you here so that we can get the team going, get the company going in the right direction. We're full steam ahead, right? But where was I going? Like having that candor, the conversations, and just giving people, you know, that softness. But
better to help with that approach.
Yeah. If you're not having those conversations with people, if you're not telling them what they're doing wrong and what they can do to improve
Yeah.
or get back on the track,
Right.
that's just really bad leadership, especially if you're just going to keep them around for an extended period of time without, either you fire them right away if you
Right.
know they're not in the right seat,
Right.
or you give them the tools and you work with them to get them back on the right track.
So hire slow and fire fast.
Yeah.
We know that because if they're not going to fit into the group, you should be able to identify that fairly quickly.
Yeah.
But if they've been there a while, instead of releasing them and trying to find another employee to replace them, which may not exist,
Right.
Better to coach them up and bring them up to speed. That's what great leaders do.
Yep.
I have always found as a manager that I was much more successful if I used compassion and empathy and understanding and help lift people up.
Yep.
They'll continue to try to work hard and get better and correct whatever it is they're not doing right. They want to be a contributing member of the team.
Yep.
So it doesn't do any good to use the hard side. I just don't think that accomplishes anything.
No,
And
certainly doesn't.
I've seen it many, many times, and I don't even know why people do that.
Yep.
I mean, other than people lose it
Yep.
once in a while.
Yep.
There's been so many great books written on leadership. I can go into the whole Stephen Covey thing and Peter Drucker and all the rest of that stuff. I'm not going to ever pretend like I know as much as those people.
Right.
Because those are the people that I look up to. Those are some of my mentors or books I read. And I'm always trying to gain more knowledge so that I can be a more effective leader.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because leadership sets the tone for the entire company, from recruitment all the way through your success and becoming an industry leader. So my question is, how do your employees perceive you as a leader?
It's a great question. That'd be a great question to ask. Just like if you're a company, ask your customers how you're doing as a business. Well, now take it a step inside and ask your internal customers how you're doing as a leader.
A lot of leaders don't want
I know.
They don't want to hear that.
I know.
So the other thing about leadership is, your company's leader engaged in communicating with employees about the current state of the company and what the vision is for the future and what it looks like.
Yeah.
Here's where we're at today. Here's the world that we're in today in our particular industry and our particular channel. And here's where our competition is. Here's where they're going. Remember, we talked about mastery and understanding the field, the competition, the market, the industry.
Yep.
And then helping people see what you see in terms of the vision, in terms of where you want to take the company, and explain to them how they're going to participate in it. What's your role? What are your responsibilities? Now you're like, wow, I'm in on the action. I'm sitting here with the leader. I understand the direction. And then they just explain to me what my role is in terms of how we're going to get to where we need to be in terms of goals and objectives. People are a lot more likely to get behind you.
Yeah, I think so.
Maximize employee coaching opportunities and providing the right support to the employees so that they can excel at their job. I see a lot of companies where the employees are just going through the motions largely, and they don't necessarily get the support that they could be getting from a proactive leader who kind of understands where they're at and understands if they're stuck or where they're at, what's your feelings like, and how are you going to go from there.
I think, like, going back to a previous episode that we did where you're maybe it's like building a bench and having those one-on-ones with those employees to really understand what their goals are and what their motivation is and how you can optimize that or help them achieve their goals. There's always going to be employees that will just want to go to work, do the job, go home, and not think about work. And that's okay. There's people out there like that. We need people out there like that. It's totally fine. But are you losing out on the opportunity to achieve more effort from the people that are underneath you if you're not having those one-on-one conversations, if you're not sharing with the value that they bring to the team. I think doing things like, hey, you're doing a really good job. Thank you so much for the hard work you're doing. That coming from a leader, even beyond the manager that is leading that department,
Right.
Coming from a higher up position to an employee
Right.
is so beneficial and does not cost a damn thing.
Right. Right. So here's a trick question. What's the number one thing employees want from their leadership?
Recognition.
You're right.
Yeah.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Tell me that I'm doing a good job, please.
Yes. Yeah.
Or tell me that I'm not, so I know what to do different.
And then help me correct it so I can do different.
This is the core of what we're talking about right here. Is getting the communications right. We've talked about this before too, and we're going to talk about it way more times.
Yes.
Getting the communications right between the employee and the leader. If you want to be a stand-up leader, you've got to get in sync and get into alignment with what your people are thinking.
Yeah. And
if you don't know what they're thinking about you as a leader, you need to maybe do a gut check.
Yeah.
And ask yourself, am I confident enough to take negative feedback from my employees who are going to share with me their perception of my leadership style?
Yeah.
I had somebody tell me one time, you need to change.
Yeah.
You need to be more empathetic.
Yeah.
You need to take others' perspectives into consideration more often.
Yeah.
And it was a little bit of a hard sell thing, but I knew they were right.
Yeah.
And I had to do a 360 assessment. You give your surveys out to all the people around you in your world, and they're going to tell you good, bad, or ugly.
Yeah.
Here's where you're doing good. Here's where you're falling off.
I think I in my last position, I managed some people, and I was kind of changing my perception on where my place was in the company and what I wanted to do and how I wanted to grow. So at one of our meetings, I'm like, hey, I got one last question for you. What am I doing? Where are my weaknesses? How can I improve?
Right.
How can I help you be better at your job?
Right.
And it took a couple times of me asking that for them to be like, you micromanage us sometimes. And I'm like, holy smokes. Well, I do not mean to do that. So I'm course correcting. And they also said, you're not great at sending emails. I think you're thinking about too many different things at once, right? It's hard to understand what you're saying.
Get to the point.
So I think by asking your people how you can improve and how you can be a better leader makes you a better person, right? It's going to help you improve and just overall be a better person.
No question.
And then you're setting them up for success.
So in the book, there's a part of each chapter is to define the problem more specifically. And in this case, the leadership problem, at least from my perspective when I wrote the book, is struggling with the right approach to maximize the effectiveness of an employee and providing them the right support to help them succeed. It's exactly what you were saying before.
Yeah.
So my advice is to use the soft side approach: compassion, empathy, understanding, consideration. These are people. They're not assets.
Right. They're not numbers.
Right. If it doesn't go well from the beginning, don't wait until an unsuccessful hire becomes a problem for the whole team.
Right.
Because one bad apple can spoil the whole bunch.
Yes.
And when you're talking about leadership, you need to get everybody on the same page.
Yeah.
So in general, if you're struggling as a leader and you want to be more of a stand-up leader, we are here to help. And in fact, if you want to come and call or email me or Jared, and we can talk about the approach that you're using and talk about where you feel you're not being as effective. And maybe we can brainstorm and share some ideas that would get you back on track. Anything to add?
No, I think this was a great conversation.
It's kind of fun. Leadership is a fun subject.
Good topic.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to seeing you at the next episode. Appreciate you being with us today. Jared Whitman from Whitman Media. John Russell with the Business Source LLC. We'll see you again.